Okay, hey guys, I'm going to be unboxing and trying to review the Truthear Nova in one video, kind of like I did with one or two other earbuds. This thing, I actually wouldn't buy it if it wasn't for the foam tip measurements. You can see the frequency response back here. See like some 8K peak. That's always seems to be a thing. But honestly, there's some kind of quirky things about this one. I don't know if it actually has in-ear Harman bass shelf the way that it's supposed to be. Again, over-ear bass shelf. Over-ear headphones like what I'm wearing tend to have less bass boosting on the Harman over-ear, but in-ear it's, there's a bigger bass boost. But anyway, I don't know. Okay, so anyway, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be unboxing this. And again, there's actually a treble hole if you use some of the tips. But if you use the foam tips that it comes with, it has a smoother treble without this huge treble hole. And I'll kind of show you that on the frequency response in a second. So this would actually be pretty crappy without the foam tips, and I wouldn't even buy it. Honestly, my impressions, I believe, I'm going to complain about it in the fact that it doesn't have enough mid-bass. So it has the Harman bass tuck at 200 hertz, and it doesn't appear to have diffuse field level treble. It seems to have a treble tilt, which means that basically this headphone, this earbud, is not going to sound warm. It's going to sound more anemic in the mid bass. It's not going to have much body or warmth. It's going to sound kind of thin, and then kind of has like this sub bass boost. Okay, so here's the tips. So you have all these tips that you can use with the IEMs, but we're looking for the foam tips. These things, they also have dual flanges. That's kind of interesting. And then they have the silicone tips. So apparently these bad boys, the foams, are what we want to use, and that's a pretty cool drawing, I guess. It's an angel. So this headphone, this earbud, whatever you want to call it, it is darker sounding and thinner sounding than my favorite tuning, which the Simgot EM6L have. So these things are like these things have my target. These things have more of a darker treble tilt and a bass tuck, mid bass tuck, to get rid of mud and warmth. So these should sound thinner and darker than the Simgot EM6Ls, which in my opinion is a bad thing, but this is supposed to sound more natural, less muddy, less bright. So you're supposed to get a more accurate representation of sound. And that's the reason why I got these, because I kind of wanted to see if this target is better, because people like Schroer especially glamorize that. So I may return these. They're $150, which is pretty cheap considering everything. If it has, a really good tuning. Again, I'm not sure if the bass is actually shaped 100% correctly. I've seen some complaints that the bass boost is a little bit not boosted enough, a little bit mellow. So we can see these are pretty big. They kind of remind me of the Thieaudios. I'll talk about Thieaudio Hype2 as well, because they're all kind of in the same kind of niche. Very similar tunings. Some of them have better treble quality than others. We got this thing. I'm assuming the cable is in here. Okay, we got the pouch. Okay, so this pouch is pretty cool. I'm assuming maybe the cable is in here. Okay, yeah, the cable's in here. Some people, I watched a review on these, and apparently, some people don't like the clothy. This is kind of clothy, fabricy. While the Simgot have more of a plasticky rubbery feel. This is kind of, you know, not. So again, I'm gonna listen to these and all that jazz. So these are the Thieaudio Hype2s. These are actually really good, except they have the bass tuck that I don't like, the Harman bass tuck, the thin sound. And the treble is a little bit, these have diffuse field level treble. They're very bright, but it's kind of lumpy, so it's kind of colored treble, kind of funky treble. But these have a similar shape, the Hype2. The Hype2 are good. Like, again, I think all of these are pretty good if you use them correctly. Like, if you use the foam tips on the Nova, you should get pretty good transparent sound. You know, you just may not have enough mid bass or treble for my liking, possibly. I'm already making assumptions, but you know. So again, I'm gonna go ahead and maybe I'll show you guys what I'm talking about. But this is the Nova. Pretty big. They're pretty big. They're pretty beefy. So I'm gonna put on the like I said, I'm gonna put on the foam tips. I'm gonna rearrange all this stuff. I'm gonna like pause the video in a second. But like I said, I'm gonna try the silicone, the medium silicone, and the foam tips. The foam tips are what it's all about. Okay, that's where you get the best tuning, and I will show you guys that. Like right now, I don't have enough room on my desk for all of this stuff, but let's kind of look at the measurements. So this is the Nova with foam tips and silicone tips, and we can kind of see the difference between foam tips and silicone tips. Let's pull this all up here. So let's get rid of big. So we can see with the foam tips, this is what I'm talking about. The bass is different. So the Nova with the silicone tips has a more bass, more mid bass even. So that's what I'm kind of concerned about. The foam tips kind of thin it out and weaken the mid bass and sub bass. But we can see that in green here, this lump right here in the highs, and then this big treble cut, this hole in the treble, that's bad. This peak out is bad. But with the foam tips, it's much smoother and a little bit darker, but it doesn't have the 6-7K lump and the 10-15K hole. So yeah, this smooth orange line here, the smooth orange line is, oh my god. Okay, the smooth orange line is what is what makes this IEM worth looking at. This lump right here and this cut right here is bad. And again, we can look at. Let's just go ahead and look at with foam and then the Simgot EM6L. So we can see the Simgot EM6L and the Nova with foam. The differences between the two tunings. So some of the people out there who criticize the EM6L, they say it has too much mid bass, too much bloat, and they say it's too bright. So we can see the Nova with foam, it has less mid bass and less treble brightness. So that's the two differences, but they should have about the same quality frequency response. And then we kind of have this oddball, the Hype2 by Thieaudio, that we can pull up, the Hype2. That's also in orange. Let me change the color. Okay, maybe this, we'll just use this color even though it's a little bit hard to see the pink. And this one's kind of in between the two in a lot of ways. Again, I'm kind of don't have enough room for my mouse, so I'm kind of, but we see it's kind of lumpy in the treble. Kind of goes up and down. It's kind of jagged, and you can hear that coloration problem on the Hype2. And then again, the bass tuck right here. I actually don't like the bass tuck on the Hype2. I think it sounds too thin, and then I think it sounds too lumpy in the treble. So we can see that you know, if we look at it, you know, they're all pretty similar sounding. You know, it's just some are warmer, some are thinner, some are brighter, some are darker, and the Hype2 have kind of crappy treble quality. But you know, they all give you a usable sound. These are all good products. But I kind of just wanted to show you the differences between these three and what I'm trying to do. So I'm going to pause the video and listen to them and then give my opinion. I guess I could sit here and like try to construct this thing together, you know, try to, I guess, you know, should I use the foam tips first? You know, I'm gonna pause it. I'm gonna connect all this stuff together, because again, these aren't even connected to the freaking cable yet. You know, you have to. So this is like a ear hook, and then I don't even know if this is the right one to connect it to. And then you gotta find. So this is the left ear. Left Truthear. Okay, and then you got the little connection here, and you plug this in. Like so. So this is for your left ear, and then the hook. Oh boy. Okay, I'll connect all this and get back to you guys after I listen to it and give my opinion. I'm gonna try the silicone and the foam, and they do have flanges. I'm kind of interested in that too. Okay. I just got done listening to the Novas with the foam tips. So these are the foam tips on the whatever the hell this brand is called, Truthear Nova. I just got done listening to them, and at first I didn't push them in my ears well enough, so they sounded extremely tinny, extremely shouty in the vocal presence, to the point that it was very funky and you know, fatiguing as hell and unnatural, and then very tinny and kind of bright and shouty and tinny. And I shoved them deeper into my ears after that, and it warmed up the sound. The bass came back. This 5K vocal presence shout got reduced significantly. And it started to sound a lot better. So you got to shove these deep into your ears, or it becomes extremely shouty, colored in the vocal presence, like very colored. A lot of 3 to 5K prominency, color that doesn't sound natural at all. So I pushed them deeper into my ears, and that got reduced significantly. It warmed up the sound. And at that point, I still didn't like them because there was still a little bit of 5 kilohertz prominency, which is something people complain about on the Harman target. And then the frequencies above that get rolled off a little bit, and you can kind of see that on the measurements. So it doesn't have a bright, open, clear treble. It kind of has like this rolled off treble and too much energy at 5K that even deep inserted into my ears was noticeably fatiguing. But so we can look at the measurements here for the foam tips and kind of discuss this a little bit. So again, my target kind of looks like this, and we can see the biodynamic DT990s have my target for the most part. They lack a little bit of sub bass, but besides that, you know, it has a bright, open, clear treble bubble, and you know, it's got the soundstage scoop and the warm boomy bass. So when we look at what's going on here, I'll just talk about this stuff. Again, does it sound more clear in the mid bass? Do the Nova sound more clear than the Simgot EM6L that I promote in the mid bass? Yeah. Okay. Again, I think this region in the mid bass, you can have more of it, you can have less of it, and it'll still work pretty good. It sounds much more clear on the Nova because there is no warmth. It sounds pretty thin in this region. Is it, workable? Is it usable? Yeah. But once we get into the highs, the treble does sound noticeably rolled off, and you're left with like a lot of energy around this region. So instead of like this treble bubble, this bright open sound, you end up with kind of a veiled treble and way too much energy in this region. So you have a lot of energy in this region, and then you kind of have this kind of veiled sound. Again, there's good treble extension. You can hear all of it, but the downward trajectory here makes it where this region around 3, 4, 5K is very prominent. So it's very shouty in this region because there's so much energy here. So this region just sounds too prominent, and I think it's because the treble is falling off considerably, which is the reason why I prefer this bright open clear treble bubble, so that it sounds more prominent in this region, which makes it sound more bright and open and clear. So again, this region, I think varying degrees of warmth can work, but I think it's very easy to sound too thin or too warm, but these are kind of pushing the limits of too warm and too thin, so anything in between this region is pretty good, and acceptable in my opinion. But I gotta say, I'm going to be returning these and getting rid of them because it's way too prominent in this region, because the treble is just rolled off. Again, it sounds clear, it sounds bright, quote. It sounds like there's enough treble, but the shaping of it leads to a lot of 3 to 5K prominency, and I think it's due to just like the lack of a treble bubble. Maybe if you reduced 3 to 5K a little bit more, it would help a little bit. 3 to 6K, that region just really sticks out. And again, if you don't push them deep in your ears, 3 to 5K, 3 to 6K, that region is just shooting out at you in a very shouty, colored way. And when you push them in deeper, it's still prominent there. And I think it's because it lacks the treble bubble. I just don't find it fun to listen to at all. I find it kind of nasty. I'm pretty... So, this is my target here. So let's get rid... We can see my target, the dotted line, if we get rid of the Nova. So we can see my target. This is for over ear, my target, so there's a little bit less bass. But we can see, there's plenty of IEMs, the Hype even. These follow my target a little bit better than the Nova. So the Nova with foam tips, this kind of rolled off in the highs. I do not like it. A lot of, 5, 6, mainly 5K prominency. And then again, the rolled off treble, I just don't like it. It just leaves a lot of energy around 5K at that point. So I do not like this at all. I just find the treble very annoying to listen to. Too much 5K. The treble is not open and clear. It's kind of just falling off when you're listening to it, which just leaves a lot of energy around 5K. It's not good. It's not good at all. You could argue, well, what if you reduce, 5K, on this graph, it looks like 5, 6K. What if you reduce that a bit, and make more of a downward tilt instead of like, again, like I don't like the treble roll off. I already made a target. I already know what I like. And this just confirms it even more. Now I'm going to try the other tips that sound like that, which looks like it's going to make a lot of prominency around, higher frequencies and make the treble even darker, but give you more bass in the green here. So I'm going to try that, and I'm going to give my opinion on that. But I'm definitely going to return these at this point. So let me listen. Okay, so I just listened to the Truthear Nova with medium, I guess, silicone tips. And yeah, 5K shout is gone from the foam tips, and now you can hear a lot of peaking at 8K or 8K, someplace up there. So it just kind of moved the tonality problems higher in frequency. So the 5K sounds better with these. It's just like a shit ton of energy at like 8K, and it's just poking out at you. Let's see if we can again look at that on the graphs. So again, some people like graphs don't tell you everything. I guess I was listening to this. So we can see on these two graphs the energy. Let me cancel this. Okay. So we can see, like I said, a lot of this has to do with the fact that you have these holes or roll-offs. So we have a lot of energy here piercing out, and it's not the fact that there's too much energy there, it's the fact that it kind of shoots up here and then cuts off here. So this huge hole makes it where it peaks out here. Okay, so if this was like this, it would sound really good. Okay, but since it cuts down like this, you're left with this huge amount of peaking energy right here, which is very fatiguing. Everything else down sounds good here. Okay, so it's the same with the foam tips. Since it doesn't follow my target and it kind of goes down like this, you end up having a lot of energy here because it's supposed to be more prominent up here, to sound correct to me anyway. Again, these are just all my opinions. So yeah, everything sounds good through here. It's just, the foam tips here have too much energy and they're too veiled. And then the silicone tips have too much energy here. And it just peaks out here. It's really nasty. It's very, the tonality is just constant, prominency there. And this does come with, so yeah, this is unacceptable. I'm going to be returning these, pretty quickly. These do have dual flanges. I'm kind of curious how those sound. But the silicone, horrible 8K piercing crap. The foam, a lot of 5K prominency shout. The treble roll off just adds to that and doesn't sound pleasing. Again, it has the bass tuck at 200 hertz, which honestly, I'm more concerned about the high frequencies. It bothers me a lot more than the thinness of the sound. It's just much more fatiguing in the high frequencies because of this crap. So, like I said, I'm going to hopefully get my $150 back. I'm just not happy with this at all. Again, there's two flanges. Let me listen to those. Looks like they got stuck in the box. These are kind of weird looking. So flanges, these kind of remind me of like Eddie Modic deep insert. Let me try these. Okay, so I just listened to the flanges on the Nova, and these have a lot of 8K peaking, so they sound like the silicone. Um, so yeah, 8K prominity peaking. They sound just like the silicone, except I think they even have less bass. I pushed them in as deep as I could. It seemed like I had a good seal. It seemed like they had less bass, less mid bass, less deep bass, kind of thin sounding. So kind of focused on the higher frequencies, and then that 8K prominentity. So I would say the silicone probably sound the best to me. Obviously, the 8K ruins it. So, they're all pretty bad. I think just the tonality with the foam. 5K prominency, rolled off highs. That's a lot. A lot of people complain about Harman Target because of that. There's like too much 5K prominency and the highs are rolled off. And it gives a really kind of, terrible sound, to be honest. Again, get the Simgot EM6L. These things have a bright, open, clear sound, no 5K prominency, no rolled off highs, no 8K peaking, no thin mid bass. These just sound perfect to me. You could argue there's too sibilant or plasticky or kind of full of shit. You could say they're too muddy, you're kind of full of shit. And then again, we have the Thieaudio Hype2. Honestly, I'm kind of curious if I actually prefer these over the Nova. Honestly, I probably do. I'll be honest with you. At least you don't have a wide selection of stupid tips to screw around with. The foam, I think, again, they dampen the highs and they make the 5K too prominent. The flanges and the silicone, they just peak out at 6 to 8K, and they're terrible. This is a terrible product, and anybody who says this is good is a freaking idiot. And Harman Target is shit. Never again.